Welcome to the Sooners 360 Recruiting Podcast, a podcast for OU recruiting fans by Sooners 360. Each week we catch you up on the latest in OU recruiting news and provide opinions and evaluations on all things OU football recruiting. I'm Chris Mason, lead recruiting analyst for Sooners 360. This podcast is now sponsored by Sooners 360 on Patreon. To support this podcast, please go to patreon.com/Sooners360817 and click subscribe. It's only $2 a month. You also have a free trial option. And that's where I'm posting all of my regular recruiting content. The link will also be in the show notes. Also, this podcast is now part of the Believe podcast family. Every team, every topic, everywhere. And I'm also appearing on Monday nights with Chris Griffin from the Horns Down podcast. We're doing a recruiting Q&A. So if you ever wanted to ask me recruiting questions or get your recruiting questions answered, we do that Monday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Best way to find those is to be subscribed to my YouTube channel. And the best way to be subscribed to my YouTube channel is to simply go to youtube.com. In the search box, type Sooners 360, no spaces, and you'll find my channel. See the logo, you'll find my channel. So subscribe to the channel and you'll always be notified when we do a new recording, and you'll also be able to easily access the replays so you can catch up on the action, even if you can't be there live to participate. I'm also doing a podcast Thursday night with Chris Griffin from the Horns Down podcast and Jason Watkins from the Hall of Fame podcast. We do a Thursday show where we kind of recap overall Sooner news. And that's Thursday, usually at 8 p.m. Central. And we'll be doing one tomorrow where we'll talk more Sooner off-season stuff and make a final prediction about the college football playoff. And again, the easiest way to get access to those replays or to participate live is to subscribe to my YouTube channel. All right, let's jump into this. This is episode 153. I screwed up with my numbering last week. I apologize about that. And it's a new defensive commit duo. So it's Wednesday, so the dead period is about to be over. So OU can host portal visitors again this coming weekend. Then I'll host them Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And the portal closes on Friday, sort of. I mean, that's the last day that athletes can submit a request to their current university to be added to the portal. And then that university has 48 hours to comply with that request and get them into the portal. So by Sunday at midnight, we should have the very last portal folks in the portal. We should know who's leaving, who's staying at the various universities. And if there are any late surprises or anything like that, that's when it should all basically be decided. So OU stands at 13 additions. They've lost about 25 to 26 players, depending upon who was really on scholarship and who really wasn't. Since I last did this, OU's received picked up three players. Bishop Thomas, a defensive tackle from Georgia State, who was previously at Florida State and Colorado. He's listed somewhere around 6'2", 300 pounds. And he had a pretty productive year at Georgia State on a not very good defense. So I think he is an insurance depth piece behind Jaden Jackson and David Stone, and somewhere as an insurance stopgap piece after them and sort of before Nigel Smith and Trenton Wilson have their chance this spring to prove that they're worthy of belonging in OU's 4 to 5 player defensive tackle rotation. So Peyton Joseph was the next addition from Georgia Tech. He's an offensive guard, offensive tackle. He was highly ranked. He is Bishop Thomas is like a redshirt senior. He'll have like 1 year for OU. Peyton Joseph is the exact opposite. He's a redshirt freshman. So this fall, he redshirted this year. So this fall, he'll be a redshirt freshman. He'll have 4 years. Very talented from a big-time program in Georgia. This could be, he was previously verbal to FSU. Then he switched to Georgia Tech. had kind of a lost semester at Georgia Tech and kind of needs a reboot and a reset. And OU looks like kind of a good spot for him. If OU can get him moving in the right direction, he is a significant pickup and could be a future offensive guard, maybe a right tackle for the Sooners, but he's very talented. You add him in essence to the 2025 class, and that makes that class, 5 players, and you've got 4 guys who I feel like were 4-star, highly recruited kids. That's Joseph, Afalava, Fasusi, and Foji. So that's a big pickup if OU can get Joseph moving in the right direction. And then OU, just quite frankly, needs some depth practice numbers, especially at wide receiver, where they've lost a lot of personnel. And they have added obviously 2 wide receivers through the portal, Parker Livingston and Trell Harris, so I think it'll be a big part of the offense. But they've lost a lot of guys. So they added Mackenzie Eleni. Let's just go with that. It's Ali Nee is sort of how you would just, say it, if you're saying all the letters. So he's from Washington State. He was a walk-on. He redshirted his freshman year when Arbuckle was there. So he kind of knows that offense. Played for Washington State last year. Didn't do much, but he got a touchdown pass in the ball game. So he's 6'1", 180, 6 foot 180. I watched his high school film from Tustin. We'll get to Tustin in here in a minute, but that's the California high school that OU, that Stacey Ford knows, has connections at. So that might have also helped with this. So in terms of needs still out there, it's going to be kind of a mad rush to the end. I think OU would like another tight end. Who that is, I'm not sure. I could see OU going younger for a tight end. Someone with several years to play. They could decide to add another bigger tight end piece with maybe a year or 2. A lot of directions they could go here, or they could add 2 tight ends because OU really kind of needs that depth at the tight end position. Ryder Mix, the freshman, is going to have to probably redshirt due to the knee injury he suffered late in his high school senior year. I'm not sure where Cade McIntyre is. I find it hard to believe that he's not a big tight end. He's not a big guy. He's 6'2", 235. I'm having a hard time seeing where he fits in the scheme with the talent OU's brought in, especially the size OU's brought in. And someone like Tyler Ruxer is just he's just more talented as a receiver. So we'll see how that shakes out. But OU needs at least 1 more tight end. I could see 2, depending on if the right guy wanted to come. OU probably would like to add 1 more portal transfer, maybe an offensive tackle with a couple of years, someone who is a pure tackle, because Joseph can play probably. He could be a center, he could be a guard, he could be a right tackle. So maybe somebody who fits in at the tackle spot. With Jaden Hardy signing with Colorado, OU's now down several safeties. So I could see a safety or like a hybrid cheetah safety, hybrid linebacker safety type, maybe somebody along those lines. That would allow perhaps Reggie Barnes to play a little more safety as well, to give you kind of a double backup situation there. And then linebacker, what's going on with Owen Heineke? Can OU find a backup linebacker who they can bring in case they don't get Owen Heineke back, despite the fact that they got Cole Sullivan, they lost Samuel Musigo to UCLA, and they're it's a little shallow behind Sullivan and Kip Lewis. Despite the positivism, in the Sooner with Sooner coaches about James Nesta and Taylor Heim, I think both of those guys are looking at big springs. Although Taylor Heim could get some safety look as well, depending upon how things shake out. So I think a linebacker would make a lot of sense. So, as I said, the key departure lately has been Jaden Hardy. We knew that Samuel Musigo was leaving. That was pretty clear. Jaden Hardy, I think there was a chance he could come back, but he went ahead and signed with Colorado. Let's give you the short version of PJ story. From my perspective, PJ's agent found out that there were serious offers for him, talked to PJ about it, and PJ's agent basically convinced PJ to go into the portal on Saturday, something like that. Said, well, you got to be in the portal for us to explore these opportunities, even if we want to negotiate with Oklahoma. So PJ did that. And then on Sunday, OU's Jim Nagy met with PJ's representation, figured out the gap, figured out how to make this deal work, and then PJ decided to stay. But on Monday morning, OU probably had a admin or an assistant athletic director or somebody assigned in compliance assigned for putting people in the portal. Saw a request from PJ to be put in the portal. OU has to honor that within 48 hours. If it came in on, I'm just figuring this person doesn't work Saturday and Sundays most of the time. Came in Monday morning, submitted the request, and then noticed that they had a request to pull them out of the portal, so then immediately pulled them right out. So that's kind of what I figured happened there. It's kind of an administrative. OU had to honor the initial request to be in the portal, and PJ had to be in the port, had to make an official portal request for his agent to really figure out his value. I'm guessing something along those lines. And then OU and PJ and his representation negotiated him staying. So that's the long, short version. And OU definitely negotiated this because they wanted to keep PJ, because replacing PJ in the portal would have cost them whatever multiplier times what they actually agreed to with PJ. It was cheaper to keep PJ than to try and replace him. And a starting defensive end duo of Taylor Wine and PJ Adewale is a good place to start when you go to Michigan and Georgia in the first 4 weeks of the year, both of who are going to run the football. So that's the portal stuff done. Let's move to high school recruiting. This is why I try and do this. You know, we're trying to get back into high school recruiting, get in the flow of things. And obviously 2 commitments for the Sooners really helped. So the first one, they were at the Navy All-American game, and they were like in the first 15 minutes. So if you turned around or got to that game late, you missed them. So the first one was Tevin Epps, the edge outside linebacker from California, or at least that's where we thought he was going to be. But based upon interviews with Parker Thune and Josh McCuistion, it's clear that OU and Tevin Epps view him as a linebacker, maybe even a Mike linebacker. He's got the frame for it. He's got the athleticism for it. He's got good coverage skills. And then you could even move him to like an edge slot where he could rush the passer, which he also does very well. But he's a great looking prospect. He chose the Sooners. He was originally committed to Texas. Maybe USC was kind of rumbling around there in the background, maybe Oregon. But he's a big time linebacker pickup for the Sooners. And again, if you play him at Mike linebacker, that's an interesting spot for him. And I think you could do any number of versatile things with Tevin Epps as the Sooner Mike. As I said before, I think his film is excellent. I'm not sure this is a 1-for-1 comparison, but he kind of has that whole bucket of skills that sort of Micah Parsons has. It's probably not the greatest comp, but that's his skill level and his athleticism, his frame. So this is a big addition for OU. Gives him another top 100 defender in this class. So it's just a huge addition. It's another California player. So OU's kind of building a Cali pipeline in this class. Epps is a very gregarious guy. From the interviews I've seen, I could see him being kind of a cornerstone of this class in terms of coordinating with kids and being a player other players gravitate to. Then OU got Mississippi defensive tackle Devin Robertson, who's 6 foot 320. He's got some burst to him. He's a run stopper. He's a nose guard. He's a pure sort of zero tech for the Sooners. OU needs big nose guards to stop the run, and he's got some twitch to him. So as he's 320, he probably could lose 20, 30 pounds, build back up. And then I think, and it's the comp I've stuck to and I've said for a while, that I think he's a twitchier Dominic Williams, and he's going to get coached by Bates the entire time. I could see him probably redshirting and then being a factor in the 2027 and the 2028 defensive tackle room. Maybe a little earlier, depending upon how things shake out, because he's a very effective nose guard. So big additions for OU from this game. Gives OU 13 commitments, which is a crazy number to be at on January 15th. They are still number one on the 247 ranking system. A&M is the only team close to them, although I think Ohio State may be creeping up as they add commitments. Let me just check the rankings here and see exactly how far their lead is. All right. That's 26. I don't know why they're still defaulting to 26 stuff when that class is essentially put to bed. All right. So OU's got like a 27-point lead on A&M. A&M's only got 13 commits, only has 9 commits. So part of that lead is OU's just pure number of commitments. But OU also has a number of players who are badly underranked. Michael Davis, the running back, whose name I'm just blanking on right now. I don't know why. Ben is his last name. He's going to rise up heavily in the rankings. That would be Keldred Ben. You have to get used to that name. He's going to rise in the rankings heavily. I also could see both Robertson being a 4-star. I just think there's quite a bit of rankings upside with some of the other OU verbals who don't quite have the attention of the recruiting services yet. So OU's number one on 247. They're still at 3 on Rivals on 3, and that's because Rivals on 3 is only counting the top 3 commits right now. So Ohio State and Texas Tech, their 3 commits are barely ahead of OU's top 3. And now OU's top 3 commits would be Cooper Hackett, Caden Penny, and Taven Epps or DeMar DeZern. And Ohio State has David Jacobs, the number 1 player in the country, wide receiver from Ohio, whose name I don't remember because OU's never going to recruit him. And then they got like another guy, and then Texas Tech has, Jalen Brewster, Tavian Bryant, and Benny Easter, the wide receiver. But when that number moves to 4, OU's probably going to move back at least to 2, maybe to 1, because they'll have DeZern and Tevin Epps, and they'll have Cooper Hackett and Caden Penny. Texas Tech's next best commit is a little lower than DeZern and Epps, and then Ohio State is going to be really, really kind of close how the numbers go there. So on 3 Rivals keeps moving the number up of how many commits they're going to count as the year goes on. By the end of the cycle, they're going to count the top 20, but they're going to take their time getting there. So other Navy game news: Jonathan Hatton was playing in the game. He didn't get a lot of action. He did get a touchdown carry. Looks good. Looks every bit the 6'1", 220-pound, ready-to-play guy that we saw. Then there was an interesting photo posted by Parker Thune from OU Insider that he posted on Twitter, where he showed Jaden Petit next to Elijah Harmon, next to Mikael McCrary, next to Devin Robinson, next to so it's Jaden Petit, Elijah Harmon, McCrary, Robinson, and Epps. So Jaden Petit looks monstrously big. So does Tevin Epps. Elijah Harmon slimmed up a little bit while he's been rehabbing his injury, so he's going to add some good weight on, I think, this offseason before he hits the field again. And poor Mikael McCrary looks tiny, but he's really a big kid. So Devin Robertson basically looks like an immovable object that at nose guard. So good for OU to see all those guys there. Jaden Petit did not want to play in the game because he did not want to get injured so close to reporting at OU, which I think is kind of a smart move because I think Jaden Petit has a great chance to get in the rotation and make some noise this spring. So another guy who played in the game, or at least was around the Navy game, I believe, was Peyton Houston. Now, OU has offered Jamison Roberts, the quarterback from Alabama, who had a big playoff run and is starting to get a lot of attention. And Peyton Houston, all throughout this whole coach change, all this mess with LSU, has stuck with that commitment that he made. But LSU and Kiffin have now, they've mixed up the quarterback room at LSU. So, Sam Leavitt, really not much of an issue for Peyton Houston. Peyton doesn't enroll until next January. Sam Leavitt, if he has a successful season, should be gone. If not, worst case, he may have one more season to play. So he would be gone during Houston's freshman year. The complicating factor, I think, for the LSU QB room is LSU just picked up in the portal Husan Longstreet, the 5-star quarterback that USC stole from A&M near signing day. And he's transferred. He's a redshirt freshman. So he's got 4 years to play. And he's a big kid, big arm, highly talented, like I said, has a five-star by some services. So I don't know that Peyton's prepared for that. So it wouldn't shock me if Peyton Houston opened his recruiting back up. But there's no word on that yet. But can't be very happy with those two quarterback moves. So does OU jump back in that race? Or do they stick with the Jamison Roberts recruiting race, knowing he's from Alabama? Alabama has a commitment for 2027, and they also are heavily trailing Elijah Haven, the number one quarterback in the country from Louisiana, who I guess may show up on Kiffin's radar at some point. But for right now, it looks like Bama and a couple other places. So Bama looks occupied, but Auburn doesn't seem to have a high school quarterback for 2027 that's their major target. Alex Golesh is probably, Alex Golesh is probably looking to add a player. And this kid's from Saraland, Alabama. So Auburn is probably a location that Saraland has sent kids to in the past. So you have to worry if you're OU that the in-state pool might hurt you with your quarterback if you decide to go all in with Roberts. So something to watch in quarterback recruiting. OU may have a chance to get back to the guy they liked, or are they going to stick with the guy they found that they may like more? It's kind of a question of physical ceiling versus current playing ability. Houston's the better quarterback now. Roberts has the bigger frame and may have the bigger potential upside. Peyton Houston's floor is pretty high at this point. Kind of know what he is. Roberts, the ceiling may be a little higher, but the floor is lower. So it's one of those areas to think about. And Houston is maybe 5'11". I'm not sure if he's listed at 6 foot. That is probably being generous. In the same way that Dylan Gabriel was the same way Dylan Gabriel was listed. So we'll see what the quarterback situation, how that shakes out. Some other post-All-Star recruiting observations and commitment observations. I mentioned the linebacker class. So if you have Tevin Epps at Mike, some events lately tend to lean to the opinion that OU has a significant lead for Cooper Witten, who would be an outside linebacker, will kind of backer. And OU's obviously very interested in Case Alexander, the brother of the son of Steven Alexander, OU tight end from the 90s. And Case is a big-time linebacker. He's 6'3", 215. He could play Mike. He could play Will. Kind of interchangeable guy. So OU's linebacker class may be more ballyhooed than we thought, because Witten's a 5-star, and I think Taven Epps could be a top 50 guy. And Case Alexander should be in the top 150. So you could see OU bringing in a fairly elite-looking linebacker group. But I think those three guys are kind of where it starts and where it might end. And then the defensive end, defensive tackle group. So you've now got a nose guard in Robertson, and you've got a 3-tech versatile guy in Harmon. When he's 6'3", 300 and healthy, ready to play, he probably could play both positions. So you got a versatile guy like that, kind of like David Stone, kind of like Brian Harris. And then Zane Rowe at the Under Armour game, according to numerous folks there, Josh McCuistion, Parker Thune, Colin Kennedy, all had a chance to interview Zane and see him, size him up. He's 6'5", 270. So, and he's not even hit a college weight room yet. So I think Zane Rowe, if he were to choose OU, is moving towards being a 3-tech and being a defensive tackle in the 290, 295 range with elite athleticism and being something like that. So that might complete OU's defensive tackle class, because when you have a legit 3, a nose, and then a hybrid, I don't know that you need another guy. Not that OU would turn down an elite defensive tackle that they're still looking at, but you'd have 3 guys, and that would be a good start. But does it also mean that OU's looking for an additional defensive end target? Maybe an edge guy? There's some follows from Bates and Chavez recently for some 2027 kids that obviously they're heavily interested in. There's two of the names I recognize. There's no real movement on them yet, but just some elite looking edge rushers, speed rushers, because Crew Jones is 6'5", 235 right now. And, the thought is he's probably going to be something like 6'5", 260, 255, 260 by the time he's, a redshirt freshman or freshman at OU. So maybe you want a speed rush guy to kind of complement Crew in that group. And OU's obviously, their defensive end recruiting is going very well, only going to go better when R. Mason Thomas gets drafted by the NFL. So keep an eye out for some movement there at defensive end. And then the tight end class, it's hard not to see Rocky Beers and Hayden Hanson at 6'7", 270 for Hanson, and then 6'5", 250 for Beers, and not notice that OU seems to want some bigger tight ends. Now, Seneca Driver in the 2027 class, he's 6'6", 230, so he could easily be 245, 250. But he's definitely a Jermaine Grisham type. You're not going to put him into the 270s and have him blocking. He's an effective blocker right now, but he's a pass weapon. He's a passing threat. He's a receiving threat for the passing game. He's a weapon who can block. That's what you want. And Zach Ferris from Vegas, the other guy that they're heavily looking at, he's 6'5", 6'6", 220, 225. So again, he probably can be 240, 245. He's a willing blocker in high school on his film, but he's an excellent receiver. So, and then Ben Kolar, the other guy they're looking at, Ben 6'3", 225, maybe 230. It would be a stretch to think he's going to be much more than 245, 250. I think he loses some of his effectiveness as a receiver if you do that. So I think OU needs to be looking for a big tight end, 6'5", 6'6", 245 in high school, 240 in high school, someone who can grow into the 260, 265 edge, hold the edge blocker that they clearly want for this offense and are recruiting in the portal. OU also, kicked the tires with Tucker Ashcraft, who went to USC, and he's 6'5", 260. They brought in Spencer Mermans from Yale, who's 6'6", 260. And he's good to Georgia Tech. They had some discussion with Alex Honig from UConn, who was 6'7", 270, and went to Northwestern. Stop me if you see the trend here. We're talking big tight ends, and the OU room hasn't, Tyler Ruxer's 6'4", going to be 240, 245, very effective in the passing game and a willing blocker. Tyler Ryder Mix is 6'3", 230. He'll probably be, again, 245, 250. Very effective blocker. Very good weapon in the passing game. But none of these guys are going to, are the monsters that you're seeing OU trying to acquire in the portal. So, and if you want to have a player like that on your roster, you've got to start recruiting them every year. So I'm kind of anticipating that we may see a third tight end in this 2027 class, and the guy's going to be 6'5 plus, 240, 250 already. Someone after a year in the OU weight room, he's 6'5, 6'6, 260, and he's your edge. He's your inline tight end who helps the running game and helps all elements of the running game with his ability to be out on the edge and physically intimidating. Now, OU will lose Beers and Hanson. They only have 1 year to play. So I think you could see OU back in the portal for a big guy like this again. But you need to start getting the pipeline of high school guys that are developing. So we'll see how that shakes out. Last but not least, junior days. So they're starting. OU will have one in January based upon content from Parker Thune on the 31st of January. Be interested to see all the guys that could show up. OU has a lot of players regionally who could be on campus, and any number of them could verbally commit. In-state, guys from Kansas, guys from the Dallas area, from Texas. Something to watch. Texas is having a junior day this weekend. I don't think OU will use this weekend as a junior day, but Texas is pulling in guys. I think OU will probably keep this weekend focused for trying to finish up their portal business. So the only question I have is, will OU use the 24th of January to bring in 2027 kids? No confirmation on that one or the other. OU does seem to be trying to track some 2026 guys, maybe at offensive line. Will they use that instead as a weekend to any last portal activity? Although OU drop ad is the 23rd, so not quite sure how that would work. But OU definitely could use it for 2026 high school prospects for the Feb signing day. I'd like to see OU kick the tires on a couple of offensive line projects to just increase the number of bodies in the room there. So we'll see if they use the 24th, but the 31st, I think we're going to have some news. We're definitely going to have some players that OU's after on campus. So that's all the high school recruiting news I've got for you. If you subscribe to my Patreon, you'll know right now who I'm targeting as OU's 3 next commits. And you'll see my class prediction right now based upon the best evidence I see out there. So if you're on my Patreon, you have access to all that. And again, that ties into my last appeal. Please visit patreon.com/Sooners360817 to subscribe for more recruiting content. That site, that Patreon, the Patreon subscribers there directly support this podcast, keep this podcast free. So if you like this podcast every week, updating you on recruiting, consider going to Patreon and supporting me there. Like I said, you'll get all of the recruiting content that I post there. And it's only $2 a month. So again, thanks everyone for listening. If you subscribe to this podcast on an audio platform, please give us a high rating. If you're on YouTube and follow us on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. Those numbers help the volume, it helps the algorithm, it helps with all those things. Please subscribe. Those memberships mean a lot in terms of keeping the getting the channel in front of more Sooner fans, etc. So I'll be back next week with another recruiting update for you guys. We'll have those back. We'll have those going on regularly now. And we'll see you next week on YouTube, and we'll hear you on your audio platform of choice. Thanks.